Hey all, welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. My name is Darren, I'm your host. Today we're going to have a special guest, Cole Wagoner from Anova Culinary. He's going to be on to discuss Anova and what's going on over at one of the largest sous vide circulator makers in the world. I'll be right back.
Smoking, grilling, getting hot and hotter, sous vide and chilling from fire and water.
Hey all, welcome back to the Fire and Water Cooking Podcast. I want to introduce my guest today. Comes from Anova Culinary. His name is Cole Wagoner. If you've been on any of the sous vide social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you've probably interacted with Cole at some time because he's the head of their social media outlet. So, Cole, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Dad. Thanks for having me, Darren. I've been with Anova right at 2 years now. Worked remotely for the first year, and recently, about 14 months ago, made the transition out to the San Francisco Bay Area, where we're headquartered. And I grew up in Oregon, started loving food early, and ended up in Alabama in 2012. My wife is from there, and we met, and I pursued her to the South. And my kind of love for cooking started. We purchased a house in 2013, and we had a beautiful kitchen. And I kind of just realized, like, hey, like, this might be my space. And really kind of let my cooking sort of kind of blossom from there. I guess 2014, I purchased an Anova. So my story is kind of unique that I was a user of the product before I was an employee. So I think that was kind of really beneficial for me to kind of learn the product, and really just started sharing meals on social media. That's really kind of where this whole thing started, was sharing cooks on Instagram. This is kind of even before the Facebook groups were around. So it was really just kind of Instagram and Twitter, a little bit of Reddit. And I got to know some people at Anova. I got to know our CEO, our marketing director at the time, and just sort of blossomed into relationships with them. And eventually a career change was in order. So super, super lucky.
So did they pretty much create this position for you, or were they looking for somebody and you just kind of fit the bill and they had already known you? Or
No, at the time, Anova is a smaller company than I thought, especially 2 years ago. I think, we have this global presence and we sell in over 50 countries. And I think, being naive to kind of the tech world, I was assuming that there were, hundreds of employees. And I believe I was the 17th employee hired. And so the position was just out of need. They were looking for somebody to manage their social media. There was, when you're that small, there's a lot of people doing a lot of jobs. And so they finally, were looking for someone to dedicate all their time to social media. And they pretty much told me, like, hey, we want you just to do, what you've done. And we just want you to do it officially for us. So,
did it start out as like a part-time gig, or they hired you remotely right away?
Yeah, hired me full-time remotely right away. It was, it's funny looking back on it now because, I told them early on, like, we're never going to move to San Francisco, so if that's a prerequisite, like, I appreciate the offer, but I don't think this would work out. And they were very clear, like, no, like, we like what you do, just like we're talking, 3,000 miles away right now. Same thing, like we were able to work it out remotely. And so, yeah, I was a full-time employee from day one.
So remotely. Never say never, huh? Now you're out in San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly now, so, 14 months after I started with Anova, it's the opportunity came to bring the family out here. And in that interim, we had a baby, and he's 2 now. And so, he was born March 14th, 2017. I started March 6th, 2017.
Nice.
So my life changed pretty ridiculously in about an 8-day period.
All at once.
So, yeah, exactly. And so it was a lot of fun. And so that was really kind of the main reason that I felt, moving out west was not really going to be a possibility with a brand new baby. And so, but a year later, we were established and my career was growing and Anova was growing, and the opportunity presented itself for us to move out here. And so April of 2018, we moved out full time to the Bay Area.
Yeah, sounds like it worked out. Oh, well, yeah. When they're a baby, they're not really tied down to any friends or schools or anything, so it's a lot easier.
Yeah, the big thing is
Okay,
grandparents.
yeah,
Yeah, leaving behind my wife's parents was extremely difficult and still is difficult. And then, my parents are in Oregon, so we moved away from one set of grandparents, but we're marginally closer to another set. So,
right. Yeah, it's always hard when the
yeah,
grandparents can't see the grandbabies that often,
totally,
but
totally.
it sounds like you made a good move. And Nova's still growing, now, especially when they're part of Electrolux. So it's
Yeah,
what is your main function job there?
I'm really responsible for anything that you see on any of our social channels. So, one of kind of the big tenets of what Anova does, and Darren, you were a few weeks ago, we synced up, and I kind of came to you as an authority on the sous vide barbecue space. We try to collect our content from outside the company. We're super believers that we're more approachable as a company if somebody like you and I still look at myself as an amateur. I do have the platform of Anova now, but I don't have an official skill set, that I learned at an accredited culinary university or anything like that. So we look for people that are at home and they're passionate and to provide content for us. And I think it's beneficial to us, and it's also beneficial to that person. It allows them to kind of, I think, feel special. I think it allows them to kind of buy into the brand. Like, I think it's because I know firsthand, that's how my relationships were started with Anova. Was they came to me and said, we love this recipe. And one of the first recipes I posted there was like a 72-hour short rib, and a few years ago, there was no 72-hour short rib. That was kind of a new thing, 5 years ago. So now it's everywhere. But so I kind of know firsthand what it's like to be approached by this company that I really love and been featured and feel really special. And so a lot of what I do is building relationships with our food nerds kind of worldwide. And that really helps, us. Like if we need to kind of pull the trigger on, hey, we'd love to post about some barbecue, my first thought is, well, heck, I know Darren. Like Darren's got a ton of great recipes. Like I'm sure he'd love to share them on our platform. So really, like I kind of consider myself like a relationship builder with our community. And then, I do everything from copywriting to, we produce some content in house as well. So, I'll do some recipe content and, take some photos and do some Facebook Live videos and stuff like that. So really just kind of social media and content would be kind of the job description. But then what I do every day, I consider myself like kind of being on the front lines and building relationships with people.
Yeah, the end user is one of the most important things that any company can actually try to relate with, because they're the ones that are buying your product and using your product. The chef
Totally.
guys and the guys, you can hook up with an Emeril Lagasse or somebody and put their name on something, but they're not buying your product. They're just trying to put their name on something. But the guys that are actually, like me, that are actually using it and trying to show other people like me how to use it. I mean, that's why I kind of got involved in doing what I'm doing, is because I saw how great sous vide and barbecue could work together. And I, did my own experiments, and I read a lot and looked up a bunch of stuff. And then I said, you know what? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like me that would love to be able to mix these two things. And that's what I think really relates people like you and me to the, people that are on the Facebook groups and what have you, is because they're just
Yeah,
like us. And, they're not going, oh, well, you're some
totally.
chefy chef guy, who,
Yeah.
so.
And I think that's especially important with sous vide, because I do think that there's a general sentiment that this is a tool that only those chefy chef people use.
Right.
And I think maybe 7 or 8 years ago that was probably the case. But I think one thing that Anova has done is it's democratized sous vide cooking. So really, this is an every person's cooking tool. You can, if and yes, like you and I, we tend to get super nerdy and do some, 72-hour cooks with faux dry aging and fish sauce and stuff like that. And, we get super, super in depth with it. But I think there's just as many people out there now that are just cooking for, a small family 4 nights a week,
Right.
just doing good chicken breasts and doing stuff like that. And so I think like being more approachable and being that brand and that company that's, we don't want a celebrity chef, because I think that shows someone like, well, of course, Imro Lagasse, can do it. He's a professional chef,
Right.
But when, Joe from, Alabama can do it, then it's more relatable, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. And that's been my whole focus, is to not make sous vide unapproachable. And,
Totally.
there's some other groups out there, and I'm not going to mention names, but some of them try to make it more complicated than it is, and try to, have people follow them like they wrote the Bible on sous vide, and everything they say is gospel. It's just like any other cooking method. There's a lot you can do with it, and it can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. And,
Exactly.
That's your normal everyday
Yep.
guy who's cooking, or even just doing barbecue. When you say, hey man, I can show you how I can take a brisket, and you don't have to worry about setting a temp controller on, buying a $500 temp controller for your grill so it doesn't overcook or undercook, and, throw it on there, get some nice smoke, and using the sous vide. I mean, those are the guys that are like, they're looking for somebody that's just like them, so,
Exactly.
and it can explain it to them in a layman's terms, and not, try to use fancy words and bash them over the head with articles and stuff like that. So.
Yep. I get, a lot of messages and tweets and, Facebook messages. It's just like, I think analysis paralysis is a big problem with sous vide. I think, people are so focused on nailing it. And I just tell people, like, just cook, like the worst thing that's going to happen is you oversear it for 10 seconds and it's a few degrees higher.
Yeah. And then next time you figure it out, you go, hey, and that's me too.
Just learn.
I'm not one who likes to make, fancy chef looking plates. And I know you do that a lot. And I know there's a lot,
I'm guilty
there's a lot of people that do that, but I think there's also a lot of people that don't. They just want good tasting food. So
yeah, well, those are just the ones that I post.
Yeah.
I still cook. I still cook through the week, and it's just
and that's what I said. There's a lot of people out there that they want to. Hey, I'm the first one to say when something looks beautiful on a plate, but when I'm cooking for my family, I'm just all about, is it going to taste good, and then is the texture going to be great and all that. So I think that's
exactly
But,
so 5 nights a week, I'm just putting good food on a plate, and then on the weekends I like to have fun.
Yeah,
and and I think that's one thing, like cooking with Anova specifically, it's made my food taste better, obviously, and so it's almost like I'm honoring the food by, I guess in my mind, like if I present it better, it's I'm like I'm overall I'm more proud of it, and so I think that wants me to show it off, stylistically better. So,
all right, so do me a favor and give me a brief history of Anova, how it started, where it is now, where it's going in the future.
Yeah, Anova it's coming up on, I guess, over 6 years old now. It was really about kind of the first thought was this cooking method has been around for decades, and a lot of people don't know about it. It goes back to the old Eagle. At Eagle, it is an old kind of tech forum, of the old like mid 2000s internet, and there were guys like Nathan Myhrvold and Douglas Baldwin that we know now as these kind of authorities on modernist cooking and sous vide, that they were really trying to piece together building sous vide equipment with aquarium pumps and thermocouples and crock pots and things like that, and that was really the only avenue to cook sous vide unless you purchased a $2,000 commercial appliance. And so our CEO, Steve, saw kind of an opportunity to bring this method of cooking in a compact device that cost 10%, of what the current offerings were, and appealing to the people that weren't quite the, the do-it-yourself people. And Anova was formed. Our co-founder had affiliations with the lab in Harvard, and they had these immersion circulators that were used for lab grade equipment. And it was basically like, hey, I think we can doctor this a little bit and make a food grade immersion circulator. And Anova was born. Early on, it was 5 or 6 people selling in multiple countries. And then obviously the acquisition in 2017 by Electrolux, was a key moment for the company. It really allowed us to kind of, I think internally we still operate like a small startup. Our culture is one of the biggest things that it's a people first culture and culture over everything. And so I think it's really important for us to still operate kind of like that smaller startup, but having the resources and the knowledge, of Electrolux behind us, which is a 100-year-old company, really kind of allowed us to get our legs underneath us. And, we've, in the first 5 years of the company, we had 2 products. And in the last 18 months, we've released, 3 or 4 new products. So we're able just to output and iterate on products and bring new products to market at a more regular interval.
So Electrolux is kind of like more hands off. They're there for resources, and
they've been an incredible partner. Obviously, just when it comes to sourcing, manufacturers, and they have a list of places that they know, and so it just makes getting in the door easier. But yeah, they let us run very autonomously. They bought us because they bought us because they believed in us. They believed in our mission. They believed in our team. And yeah, it's been an incredible partnership. We have the resources. Obviously, I mean, we still report to them. We are, they are our parent company, but sometimes I have to be reminded. It's like, oh yeah, we do, work for Electrolux, in a way. But yeah, they let us run and do what we do, and they support us and believe in our end goal.
That's great. So what is, I know you guys have the Anova test kitchen out there, and I see some videos on Facebook and stuff with you in it all the time. What's the main function of that?
The main function of that was if there was ever a multi-purpose space, that would be it. It's a retail shop. It is a demo center. It's a production studio. It's where we cook lunch for the office. It's where we hold classes. We did a class this past Thursday night. We typically do kind of smaller, intimate classes about twice a month. We did an A5 Wagyu class a few weeks ago. We did a short rib class. We typically it's a good way for us to get in front of people. And then it's open throughout the day, kind of through the holidays and stuff. We'll open it throughout the day, and we'll do demos 2 days a week. It's amazing when you start searing steak and open the door, people will come in. So it's very much, and obviously we're right in the south of Market District in downtown San Francisco. So foot traffic is essentially nonstop. And so it's just a good way for us to be kind of involved in the community and meet people off the street, and kind of, it's cool because sometimes people will walk in and be like, oh my gosh, I love your product. I've had it for 3 years. I didn't even know you were in San Francisco, type of thing. And so it's a good way to get in front of our customers. But I think probably my favorite thing we do there is we do the classes, and I'm lucky enough to typically lead those classes and, get in front of a handful of people and just kind of talk about what I'm passionate about. And it's great because in a class you might have 3 really seasoned sous vide, kind of veterans, and you'll have 3 people that just want to learn, so it's a great way to just talk about how sous vide works. And, the other night it was a short rib class, but it sort of just transitioned. There were 4 new people there that had never cooked sous vide. And it really just kind of transitioned into like a sous vide 101 class. And we talked about searing methods and how much to season, and should you use a vacuum bag versus a Ziploc bag. And it really just became kind of an informative session, and people leave feeling empowered, and, and then helps me kind of build those relationships. That can be someone down the road that, we form a content partnership with or something like that. So.
Now, have you guys ever, or do you, I don't know, I haven't seen anything, consider doing those and have cameras and stuff so it can be live streamed when you're doing those?
We have, we've done it maybe not well in the past. We did kind of an overhead shot. We're still a company of, I mentioned earlier, I was employee number 17. I think we're still, if we're not 40, we're right under 40 people. So I think we have the ideas of a company that has a few hundred people, but just realistically, we're still a very small team. So yeah, I would love to live stream, all of our events and have, thousands of people tune in, every time, but just from a bandwidth perspective and, the ability to spend, days or even hours planning that and executing on that. Right now, it just isn't really a possibility for us.
Well, even if they recorded them and just posted them up on the website,
Yeah,
might even
yeah,
that way you
great
don't have
idea
the
too. Yeah,
interactive.
and
So, um,
totally, yeah, and we're always experimenting with stuff like that.
so before we take a break, I want to discuss a little bit more since you've probably been doing sous vide a little bit longer than me. I've only been doing it about 2.5, 3 years now, and
Mhm.
just how I know just in the last 2 years how it's changed and grown. How do you see from when you started the change and the just in the products themselves and the people being open to it and all that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely. I think it's grown, to be more recognizable, but it's still a fraction of, just people in the US know about it. It's, I think a few years ago, a study that we, commissioned said 4% of people were even aware of the term. Now it's around 10%. So it's, nearly tripled or, over doubled in people knowing about it. But it's still a very, I don't think it's a niche technique. I think it's here to stay, and I think it's usable in really any scenario of anyone that needs to cook really any type of food. But when you're talking 10% of the country is even familiar with it, number one, that gives us a lot of room to grow. If we can, capture even another 10% of the market, that's double the output of what we've already done or something like that. But I think you've seen it shift from just people that wanted to cook fancy meals and 72-hour short ribs and huge steaks to it. I think we democratize it. I think we've made it more appealing to a smaller group of people that just want to cook good food at night. And I think that's probably the most important thing is like I was talking, not to name drop, but I was talking to Grant Achatz a couple years ago, the founder of Alinea and one of the best chefs in the world, and he told me that he thinks sous vide is the new crockpot. And a few years ago I was like, no way, like that would be crazy. And I think like every year we're getting closer to that. I don't want to compare the results to a crockpot, obviously, but as far as the democratization of it and having them in every kitchen, that's something I believe in strongly. And I think that, every Facebook group, gets us closer to that.
Yeah, and I agree to some extent. I think a crock pot, everybody has it for a certain use to keep things warm. But I think sous vide could be such a multi tool that I get upset when people I get upset when people compare it to an air fryer or even an Instapot, because there's only certain things you can do in an Instapot and there's only certain things you can do in an air fryer. And then,
And I think by that I mean like it's something that 80% of households have. The method obviously is not the same and stuff like that, but I think that's kind of what I mean by people can use it for whatever they want to. Like we have a crock pot, and I think we probably just keep cheese dip warm in it. That's about the extent of
yeah, they're
or
good for
or
potlucks,
meatballs.
when you're bringing,
Yeah,
your meatballs and
meatballs
stuff.
meatballs that I've already cooked sous vide, like then they go in the crock pot, or something like that. But yeah, very very few limited cases in our house for that. But yeah, I think like just seeing people, um, it's just become more of an every person's tool, and especially around the holidays, we'll see a lot of people like, hey, I got this tool, I didn't even really know about it, but heck, I cooked chicken breast with it. What else can I do with it? And I think that's super important.
Exactly. And I see a lot of people that, hey, I got one of these, 6 months ago. I've
Yeah,
never taken it out of the box, and I heard
yeah,
they're good for making steaks. Well, that's trying to get people to understand that, it's not just,
yeah,
making a steak, good, or chicken breast or whatever. I mean, it can do so many other things. That's what got me excited about it when I first started playing with it. It wasn't that, oh, I can
yep,
make a steak, it's totally medium rare from end to end. It wasn't that. It was, man, I can take a brisket
Super
and make it
tender.
medium rare and
Exactly.
still make it tender, instead of making it well done and, cooking it 12 hours on the smoker and hopefully it doesn't dry out. That's what excited me about sous vide. And that's what I love spreading. That's the information I like to spread to people is like, look, don't look at it as a steak cooker or pork chopper
Oh
or
gosh, no.
chicken breast cooker.
No.
This thing can do anything. And it's got so many things you can do with it. It's unbelievable. So
we're recording this on a Saturday, and I like to experiment on Saturday or on the weekends. It's just kind of my creative time. And I just did a mushroom risotto, and it's one of the best risottos that I've ever cooked. It just,
I
I
saw pictures of that.
It's
Awesome.
out there now. And it was, frankly, I kind of surprised myself. I expected to kind of go through a couple iterations today. I had enough mushrooms and enough rice that I was going to kind of perfect it. And I cooked it one time, and I hate, acting like there's nothing I can improve on this, but I think that's more of a testament to the method than it is my skill. I just kind of got lucky with my ratios, I think, and it turned out incredible, and so now I want to cook all the rice dishes. It's like I'm not going to eat meat for a few days. I just want to cook rice dishes, So, yeah.
Right. Well, and I just got done editing a video that I did where I took a chuck roast and a top loin or a top round steak and cooked them in the same container at the same temperature and the same time to compare the two at 131 degrees for 36 hours. And the people don't understand. You can take that chuck roast, and I took it out and seared it really hot on my grill. And that thing had the consistency of a ribeye, and it was actually more tender than a ribeye if I just cooked a ribeye on the grill. And it's a chuck roast, it's $3.99 a pound.
Yeah.
So it's, and it literally, the top round, of course, doesn't have as much fat. So it's not as, doesn't have that oomph of the fat flavor. But the chuck roast, I swear to God, it tasted just like a ribeye. And it was perfectly medium rare, had a perfect sear on it. And that's the kind of things I want people to get excited about. It's like you could take that $3 piece of meat and turn it into something that you think you paid $12 for.
The thing is, I get super geeked up about like things that only sous vide can do. Like you can smoke a chuck roast to 131 degrees. It's not going to be pretty. Like it's you're going to cut into it. It's going to be perfect medium rare, but it's not going to be edible or tender. And so. I'm totally with you on that.
All right. Well, we had a good first half. I'm going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about some things that are upcoming for Anova and the ISVA Summit and all that. And we'll be right back. Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to mention Inkbird Barbecue Products. They're the sponsor of our podcast today. And they have their Bluetooth 4-probe digital barbecue thermometer. The IBT 4XS is on sale on Amazon right now for 20% off. Gets it to $44. It has a 500-foot range with Bluetooth. It works with your iPhone, Android device. You can monitor your pit temperature plus up to 3 different foods. Works great. Lots of options. Check it out on Amazon in the description below. I've got a link to it. Check out Inkbird. They have other products out there as well. Thanks for Inkbird for sponsoring the podcast. And now back to our show. All right. Okay, guys, we're back with Cole Wagoner from Anova Culinary. And we had a good discussion in the first part. And I want to talk about maybe some stuff that maybe you can talk about and what's coming up. Some of the products that are coming out with Anova, some of the stuff that you just released, like I know the Anova Pro and the container. So
yeah, I mentioned earlier, obviously the acquisition by Electrolux has allowed us to sort of, accelerate, maybe our 5-year plan into a 3-year plan. That no secret, coming up on 3 years ago, we announced the Anova oven. That's still a thing. Every time we release a product, or really I sometimes joke, like, I could put any communication out there on social media and someone's going to say, where's the oven? And so I try to have fun with people. The project is not dead. It's just, we would rather do it right a couple of years late than do it, 80% of the way there and get it out on, quote unquote time. And so I think
So
that,
explain to me what that is, because
yeah,
I had never heard of it. Is it
uh,
similar to the Sous Vide Supreme
the
or?
Anova oven, no, it would be a combi steam oven. It was sort of the idea behind that. And so we announced it at CES in 2017, and the Anova oven would allow you to really to kind of replace your countertop toaster oven. So
Okay,
a
I
fully
got you. It's kind of
functional,
like I think Breville or somebody has something
yeah,
similar to
and
that.
and again, it's the reason we picked that is it's typically a product that's used in commercial kitchens that costs thousands of dollars. And so we're sort of hoping to do what we did with the sous vide machine, was take something that was really known to high-end restaurants and bring it into the home at an affordable price. So a steam oven essentially kind of allows you to sous vide cook, number one, because you can control the temperature of the oven with steam. And so you put 130-degree steam in the oven, put your steak in there, it cooks it to 130 degrees. So it has sous vide capabilities, but then it also has, the thing that sous vide lacks is the browning method. So kind of our vision a few years ago is, hey, like put your steak in there, it cooks it, the broiler heats up, and it sears it. And that was kind of like the first, like, whoa, like this could work. And so the whole idea behind it is it's that next tool that we have, kind of identified as something that's really expensive. There's a very small group of people out there that have them already, and we want to bring it, to more people. So the oven is kind of the first thing that always comes up with people in our community. We've talked about it. That project is not dead. We have a team dedicated to that, and it's coming with no ETA. And then the Anova Pro obviously just came out 1st of May, so about 7 weeks ago, and that was sort of our attempt to break into the commercial market. Obviously, having sold a couple million devices worldwide to the home consumer, this was kind of our attempt to break into that commercial market with a device that's, it's more expensive than what consumers are used to paying. It does retail at $399 US, and so it's a little bit of a sticker shock, I think, to someone that's purchased, a Nano or a Wi-Fi unit, at a $99 or $179. But to be able to bring down the commercial price, which is typically $800 to $1,000, we were able to kind of go half of that and bring a product that was kind of truly built for the commercial kitchen. So it's been super excited to kind of meet kind of a new group of people that are excited about our devices and, able to, if they run anything from a small catering business to, a large restaurant feeding 50 people a night, that's going to be the right tool for them.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I can't wait to get my hands on one to
Yours is
test it out.
on its way.
So, I mean, that, the wattage is going to be good for the bigger, especially for people that like me who do big briskets and everything,
Oh, heck yeah.
It's really gets the water heated faster and it holds it. And you don't have to worry about it, trying to struggle to keep the temperature. So, and that's even though sometimes, using the cooler helps out a lot, but
Totally.
it's just for people like me that like to, run it, 72 hours plus. And,
Yeah.
that's what my big worry is, that the thing's going to die,
Yeah.
on a long cook. And then, you got to try to figure out what to do with your meat.
Yeah.
But what about this sous vide container that you guys had out? That thing looks amazing.
Yeah, the sous vide container is kind of funny. It started as an in-house prototype. We had a couple of engineers and designers just kind of build it, and we used them in the Anova kitchen. And I would post about, like, I would do an Instagram story, and we'd be dropping, some corn or something in the big container, and inevitably we would get dozens of messages like, where can I buy that container? And I said, you can't. Like, this is just something we made in house. And so from there it was kind of born, like, hey, I think we could market this. And it really kind of, it worked out that, like, hey, like, the Pro needs, what we found was that a lot of people wanted to buy the Pro with a dedicated container. It doesn't make a lot of sense to take the Pro home and then put it, in a 12-quart, polycarbonate container. You
Right.
kind of want to make, that it obviously it'll work in that, but it's a little bit overkill. So, so to do something that's 20 liters that you can fit, 4 or 5 racks of ribs in, or, a Packer brisket or something like that. And so we had some built, and we've been selling them. And so it's kind of a limited time run. And the response has been good.
So is it going to continue to be a limited time run, or is it just more of a?
I think that's TBA right now. I don't have a lot of information on that. I do know kind of the run that we have right now is limited. Because the pro market is limited. It's obviously not as big as the consumer market. And so,
I can certainly understand, not trying to put something, because it looks amazing, and it's, it's quite expensive compared to the Lapavi type containers, but it's worth it to a lot of people. And I think you're smart by doing a limited run, because you don't want to, order 10,000 units and then only be able to sell 500 of them.
Exactly. And I think and it is I think, some people have said, I didn't even pay that much, for my cooker, and that's true to a lot of people. But
you're gonna get that with a lot of people, but there's also going to be a lot of people that'll step up and buy it.
Yep, so we've sold a lot of them.
You get that in everything. I see it in the grilling market. I mean, I have a $1,500 Kamado Joe grill out there, and that's not. And then the people will go, well, I got a $100 Weber, and it's just as good. And it's like, okay, but there's going to be a lot of people that'll buy a $1,500 ceramic grill too.
And I think the thing that was unique about this container is most of the aftermarket containers out there now had a purpose before sous vide.
Right.
People, Cambros weren't built to necessarily sous vide and things like that. So this was kind of the first. Definitely the first double-walled stainless steel container that was designed and built with sous vide in mind. And so there's just little things like the adjustable collar, it'll fit all of our devices, the rubber seal, like the heavy lid, like just things like that were so yes, at the end of the day, it is a container that holds water, but it was a container that holds water that was designed, with sous vide.
Specifically for sous vide. Exactly.
I
don't know. You probably, since you're in the business, you look at everything that's out there available as any kind of accessory. And I guess that Sous Vide guy put out a little cooler, and, I guess he had some company, put a hole in it for him to fit the Anova.
There you go.
That's cool. But it, he wants $40 for it, and I could buy a Coleman stacker and drill my own hole, for $20. So it's.
I think that's one thing that I love about I've talked about our community a lot is we, the Coleman party stackers, I don't know how many we've probably sold, for Coleman, just because of people
for Coleman,
cooking sous vide. So, it kind of works out fantastic. I mean, kind of a, fun fact is with the Nano, the Nano does have a fixed clamp on it. But it was important to us that we made it wide enough that it would fit over the Coleman party stacker. So we knew that it wasn't going to be super adjustable, but we knew that was kind of the cooler that most people were using. And so it was important to us that when we designed it, that was, the one cooler that it would fit over.
Yeah, I mean, I've got mine and I love it, and that's what I use for my Packer briskets and ribs, and because literally I can put hot water in there, and it takes 20 minutes for it to get up to temp, and then it just sits there. I put the lid on. I don't use it as a cooler at all. I use it to cook in. So
I think
but it's great.
I think this pro is going to blow your mind with heat up temp. It's crazy. It still surprises me.
Is there any other products they got working in the road, with the stacker, the stasher bags and things like that?
I mean, with nothing really that I can definitely talk about, obviously, but I mean, the Anova kitchen it's more than a kitchen built around sous vide. I think that we have this. We named our downstairs retail experience test kitchen. We named it the Anova kitchen because we have this kind of vision of an Anova kitchen. And, I think in 10 years that could be, it could be anything that's in your kitchen now. So I think, we've done sous vide for a lot of years, and it's really anything that we can make precise. I think precision is kind of our number one goal, and that's where the oven came from is, if you go to your oven right now and turn it to 350 and you put a temperature probe in there, it's not going to be 350. It's going to be It's going to be three. It's going to be 337, and then it's going to go to 364, and then it's going to be kind of a wave. You know, you could do it over 4 hours, and it would be kind of a wave. You know, to us, it's like if it's a degree over, like that's unacceptable. You know, so the whole idea of the Anova oven, as I mentioned previously, is like if you want that Anova oven to be 350, it's going to be 350. You know, so anything that we can improve, you know, precision on. You know, so I think that's
The
one of the things.
the amount of people in the barbecue, even in like the Kamado Joe and Big Green Egg groups, that think the analog thermometer on their cooker is exactly the temperature just blows my mind. They just don't understand that thermometers are, you know, especially the ones for your barbecue, they're not exact, you know, they're not precision.
Gosh, no. And even on your oven, if the digital readout says 350,
right, exactly,
it's 100% lying to you. You know, so yeah, and so I think you know that you know I and speaking of barbecue, like you know I have some stuff going on my Traeger right now, and like this is nothing that we've talked about as a company, but like I just in 10 years, you know, I could see an Anova pellet smoker, you know, something like that, like just allowing us to like build the brand and you know, having an Anova pellet cooker with your oven, with your induction cooktop, you know, with your sous vide immersion circulator, you know. So I think it's
well, you know, the way pellet grills and even regular grills, the amount of technology, and this is part of my podcast last week with Mark, is the technology that's being thrown at the outdoor cooking space is amazing to me, with the pellet grills now all wanting to have Wi-Fi connectivity, PID controllers, so that the temperature is within, you know, 1 or 2 degrees of what it says. It's just, and they're doing that with, you know, even the ceramic grills and their gas grills are all coming out with all kinds of new technology that you would never thought, you know, 10 years ago in the barbecue space. You know, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, so I think as a company, as a brand, we just you know we want to be you know not everywhere in that sense, but we just sharing food brings people together, and I think that's kind of at the core, you know, of our existence as a company. And so, the more ways that we can do that, and the more ways that we can take, you know, the guessing game out of cooking, you know, whatever that product is, if we can improve on the current iterations of it and make it kind of, you know, to where someone has a repeatable success after a repeatable success.
yeah,
You know,
I mean,
think
it
that's a
just
product
astounds
that
me
we
that
would look
the
at, you know, developing.
things you can do nowadays. You know, I started cooking when I was 15 years old in the restaurants and stuff, and cooking on a flat top with just a spatula and trying to, you know, figure out how a medium steak could be, you know, with pressing it and all that kind of stuff. But the things that we have available now, it just
Yeah,
amazes me, just for as far as convenience and uh, being able to make restaurant quality food and not being a trained chef is just astounding to me. So, talking about that, let's talk about the new International Sous Vide
yep,
Association and the summit that's coming up next month that you're going to be a part of.
yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. I've known Jason Logston for several years now. Obviously, kind of you know with Amazing Food Made Easy, and I think he published one of my recipes shortly after I started cooking sous vide. So I've had a good relationship with him. Got to know Mike, kind of the co-founder of the ISVA, through Jason, and about a year ago or 9, 10 months ago, whenever it was, they asked me to you know to kind of come out and speak at it, and so I was super honored. And obviously, I mean, an entire summit conference built around sous vide is something that I probably was going to go to, you know, anyways, and then to ask, you know, to go and speak and, you know, do a demo and, you know, help cook was an honor. So super excited to kind of be around like-minded people for a few days, and just right outside Philadelphia there. So kind of reminds me that I need to start looking at where I'm going to eat, you know, at night when these are done. I'm a new city to go eat in. I'm super excited about that too. So if anybody has any Philadelphia area restaurant recommendations, I'll definitely take them.
Yeah,
So
I definitely
yeah, I
was.
think it's
I definitely think it's something that I was asked to go, but I had already had other
Yeah,
plans with other things. And I told him, I said, if you would have asked me probably a couple months ahead of time, I definitely would be there, but I'm definitely going to go next
totally.
year. And I kind of know where it's going to be, but he told me I couldn't tell anybody. So, but
Yeah, I know. I know
yeah,
too.
so that I'm looking forward to that because I got some family that are close
Yeah,
by in Monterey too. I might be able to, hook up with too.
very cool.
So
Yeah, I think it's kind of the first of its kind, obviously. And at Anova, we go to trade shows and conferences around the smart kitchen and technology and places like that. So to have a presence, at the Sous Vide kind of summit is obviously super important to us. And obviously, you have Meathead going and the people over at Cuisine Solutions and stuff like that. So a lot of heavy hitters there. And yeah, I'm just number one. I mean, I'm honored to be asked, to go. I think it's really cool to kind of have the platform that I have to share what I love, with other people. And so to do it in person is going to be super fun, and I'm sure the food's going to be incredible there. And I'm just excited to meet people that have a room full of a few hundred people that are all there for one purpose, and I think it's going to be a really good time.
yeah, it's I'm really glad that they got a lot of people, a lot of great quality people involved in it right off the bat too. So
Yeah.
it looks like
Yep.
it's going to
Yep.
be a
Yeah. I think
great event with a lot of good speakers, you included, and Allen Brothers is providing a lot of good meat.
they
Mike
are.
sent me over the list of food that meat that Allen
Yeah.
Brothers is
Yeah.
sending. It's amazing. So it looks
Yeah.
like
Like
you
it's
guys are gonna
crazy.
eat
Yeah.
really well. So yeah,
We've got. There's going to be a lot going down. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, I'm giving a talk on. I think my talk is titled, from inspiration to Instagram, and it's sort of the process, like how I get inspired to cook, and then how I cook it, and then from everything to plating, to taking a nice photo, so recipe inspiration to getting it up on social media, which is what I do. So I'll be able to kind of share some of my tips and tricks for that. So I'm super excited.
yeah. I'm really stinks that I can't go because I would really love to go and just hang out. But
Yeah,
I was able to meet Jason. I was up in New York for vacation a couple of weeks
yep,
back, and I got to actually meet Jason and have dinner with him one night. So we got a good talk in. So he lives right
yeah.
outside of Manhattan. He lives in Brooklyn. So
Yeah, he met us. We were there as a company when we did the Nano launch last summer. We did a press tour in New York, and Jason met up with us and did the same thing. So super nice.
yeah, him and Mike are really great guys, and that's really open. They kind of they run a group like I run my group. I kind of told Jason I run my group like he runs his. I try to make sure everybody's treated well, not
Yep.
kicked around. If anybody starts causing garbage, picking on people or you know
Yeah.
doing things they don't need to be
And
doing,
I mean,
they're out of the group. I mean, it's there for people to learn, to teach people, to people to be able to ask questions and post their recipes and all that, and have a good time and enjoy each other's company and not mess with everybody. So
totally. And in the Anova Food Nerd Facebook group, we have like just shy, we're a few hundred shy of 30,000 people. And honestly, like it is the internet, every once in a while, there's a bad egg that comes through every once in a while. But for the
exactly.
most part, I think we're super lucky. And really, I think that extends to your group, that extends to Jason's group. Like it's most 99.9% of people are there to learn and to share, to have a good time. And I sometimes I sit back and I'm like, this is not normal for the internet.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
usually
My group is fairly easy,
it is.
and it's
Yes, same on our end. And so I think it's nice when you have just passionate people that are there to learn. And
yeah.
part of my job is moderating that group and and sharing and stuff like that. And for the most part, it sort of runs itself, which is nice. So
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to next year's ISVA summit. So,
yeah, I am too. A shorter trip for me for sure.
hell, you're not supposed to. Well, maybe we don't know yet. No,
We don't know.
but yeah, it looks like it's going to be a great time. I think it's going to build on it. I think the amount of excitement and quality people they got involved in the first year says a lot about you know the need for it as well. So it's going to be great, I think.
Oh, for sure.
And
Yeah.
I'm looking forward for more things from Anova. I'm looking forward to that Pro so I can do some tests on it. And there's
Yes.
anything else you want to talk about? Anything else going on with Anova that?
Ah, just thanks for having me on. Obviously, it's an honor to do this and talk about it, what I like doing, and no, I just follow Anova on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, at Anova Culinary, Facebook group. Type in Anova Food Nerd, and you'll see that. And I think it's a great place to learn and share along with your group there. And no, I think that's it. I think just
And you are
stay in
not
the loop with what
Anova
we're doing.
customer service. I'll just make sure people
I'm
doesn't
not. Yeah, I try. I'm not. I will answer questions. Time being, but if you
if you have a problem
message
with your
me on
unit,
on
if you don't call
yeah,
home at night.
support at AnovaCulinary.com. That's we have people there 24/7, so they'll get you taken care of. But yeah, no, I mean every once in a while I get a message about help, my short ribs are on fire. What do I do? And sometimes it's hard to say no to that. But
and
yeah, I think that's one thing that Anova does well. Our work life balance is very, very good.
Yeah.
It's super, super important to our senior leadership to allow us to separate work and home. And even though I do play with an Anova all day at work, and then I come home and cook immediately with one, so I don't separate that part of it too much. But
right.
I do still enjoy my evenings and my weekends at home with the family. So
all right. Well, thanks for being on. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time. And I know we've been trying to get
man,
this scheduled, but I know you're busy and you got
yeah.
family and work, and so do I. But it's great.
So
Thanks for being on.
I appreciate you having me on, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch. And looking forward to the ISVA next month.
All right. Thanks a lot. And I will talk to you later.
Thanks, Darren.
Well, there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed our talk with Cole Wagoner from Anova Culinary. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to our podcast and give us a review. It helps us get our podcast out there to other people. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Instagram. Check out our YouTube channel. Just type in Fire and Water Cooking in Google and you should be able to find us. Thanks again. See you on the next episode of Fire and Water Cooking.